Hello, Havan. Thank you so much for joining us. So our next up, we have our keynote address from Haban Ali. She is very much open to answering questions after her address, so please feel free to drop them in the chat throughout her opening address. But a little bit of a bio about Haban. Haban is a systems thinker who has been recognized as Canada's top 100 Most Powerful Women in 2021. She holds a Master of Science in Global Health from McMaster University and graduated as valedictorian from University of Toronto with an honors Bachelor's of Science. Currently, she's an intern with the Ontario Legislator Internship Program, where she is learning more about health policy while expanding her understanding of provincial politics. She was recently named a Schwarzman Scholar and will be attending Tsinghua University in Beijing to study global affairs. Haban advised Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for 2 years while creating Canada's first national youth policy. She furthered social innovation projects at Mars Discovery District and Grand Challenges Canada. Currently, Haban is a chair of the board of directors of Apathy is Boring. She also works with the Future of Canada project, which provides seed funding to catalyze research that explores the possibilities for Canada in the next decade. She's passionate about removing systemic barriers for youth, especially youth from communities that are marginalized and vulnerable. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Haban Ali.
Thank you, Ganya. That was a nice intro. I realized I have to shorten that. I'm so sorry.
No, you have a lot of accolades, more to you.
I care. And I think what I share with you folks today will give a little bit more context to all of that. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you here today. My name is Haban. I was born and raised in Rexdale, a vibrant, lively, and diverse neighborhood in Toronto. Unfortunately, due to poverty and systemic racism, there are many challenges that youth and children in my community face that are different as compared to the rest of the Canadian population. There are challenges rooted in poverty, including unemployment and gun violence. My upbringing and reality shaped my worldview and motivations, and the very insidious ways that systemic racism manifested throughout our institutions, including education, healthcare, and the justice systems, were very clear throughout my upbringing. And even with this immense pain and loss, our communities are so much more than our social barriers. And it's quite unfortunate that even in Canada, the color of your skin and postal code can determine your life expectancy, quality of life, and well-being. Seeing my loved ones, friends, and community members not being able to live out the full potential of their lives really sparked my interest in the sciences, innovation, and health equity. So since I was 16, I engaged with youth health promotion initiatives and advocacy. And as Ganiat mentioned, in third year, I was appointed to the Prime Minister's Youth Council, where I advised Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, his cabinet, and the Government of Canada for over 2 years. During this time, I was involved in creating Canada's first national youth policy. Alongside my incredible council members, we held discussions with youth all over the country, from Iqaluit to Sherbrooke to Toronto. This experience was eye-opening and broke my Toronto-centric line of thinking, but it also underscored the experiences of so many Black, Indigenous, and lower-income youth. We were experiencing a very different reality in Canada, and I was able to directly engage with key decision makers, create policy, and think at a systems level, all while being involved in community building at a grassroots level. However, these engagements often felt siloed. No one was communicating or collaborating to meet the massive challenges of poverty, violence, and opportunity gaps which blocked youth futures. I felt very stuck. That feeling all changed when I began my internship at the Mars Discovery District in May 2020. I joined a team then called Opportunity for All Youth, and now known as MyStarter, which specializes in creating better youth futures by helping youth who face barriers find meaningful employment that builds skills and experiences. At this time, it was the beginning of the pandemic, and a lot of youth were experiencing the harsh impacts of unemployment. And for the first time, I was experiencing movement and change at the scale my communities deserve. In the summer of 2020, our team was able to engage over 7,000 young people across the country, and having access to the Mars space was life-changing. I conducted design jams with over 300 youth to discuss and solve the challenges they were facing in obtaining employment. Together, we designed an anti-racist, non-tokenistic, and meaningful opportunity strategy to build the capital, social capital, and access for underrepresented Black and Indigenous youth in the tech sector, while also creating more access points for employment and career growth. I ended up pitching this youth opportunity strategy, including a youth innovation council, to our CEO, who was really impressed and hired me following my internship to bring the youth opportunity strategy to life. At the same time, I was completing a Master's of Science in Global Health researching the health and employment experiences of Black youth in Rexdale during this pandemic. I decided to explore these experiences a little deeper, and my research question was titled, "How has COVID-19 impacted the employment of Somali Canadian youth in Rexdale, and what were the associated health implications?" Second generation Somali Canadian youth living in Rexdale were able to share the impacts of the pandemic on their employment, physical health, and mental health. Through precarious employment, young people lost income, experienced unsafe working conditions, and faced financial difficulty while also facing an increased risk of exposure to the COVID-19 virus. These pandemic impacts were exacerbated by the fact that many participants live with large families and immunocompromised family members. Additionally, some participants had access to government COVID-19 support. However, many were ineligible due to precarious work, or they worried about how society and their communities would perceive them for receiving government support. The physical health of Somali Canadian youth were also impacted by riskier transit options, the inability to work from home, and barriers to accessing healthcare. The youth articulated how the pandemic negatively impacted their mental health due to financial worries, education and interpersonal challenges, and the stigma surrounding mental health services in the Somali Canadian community. Moreover, the study demonstrated that intersectional identities of our participants, including their socioeconomic status, race, and religion, influence their choices and access to coping strategies. On a global scale, the social determinants of health allow for a lens to understand the poor health of the poor, social gradients in health within countries, and marked health inequities between countries. These inequities are often due to unequal distribution of power, income, goods, and services that result in the unfairness in the circumstances of people's lives, including their access to healthcare, schools, education, their conditions of work, their homes, communities, towns, or cities. Furthermore, youth employment is related to mental health problems. All of these factors influence the ability of a person to live out the full potential of their lives. To reduce global health inequities, the global community must take urgent and sustained action on global, national, and local levels. This can look like improving the quality of work, providing adequate paid sick leave, income security, limiting precarious employment practices, providing decent protection and support to workers, increasing the affordability and access to healthcare, investing in ethnocultural services and providers, targeted funding and supports for youths facing additional and unique barriers and marginalization in the labor market, incorporating youth recruitment initiatives in national and subnational workforce strategies, investing in the social determinants of health, including access to housing that is safe and secure, and mending social conditions that exacerbate poor mental and physical health. Racism, gender inequality, social exclusion, loneliness, and poverty impact our communities deeply. The past couple of years have shown that governments have been slow to act on poverty, even though they were swiftly able to act on rent, income, and employment relief in the pandemic. When discussing pandemic policies and youth well-being at this time, it's also really important to remember that all issues are youth issues. And this is why the work of this conference and all you folks here today is so important, because working towards sustainable development and community activism is possible. It's been done, and together we can achieve so much more. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Haban. That was incredible. I am like the biggest Haban Ali stan in the world. I think
I'm your fan.
And we have a few questions here. So a question that we got was, you've done a lot of amazing things, but what would you say is the thing that you're most proud of to have accomplished, either with the Prime Minister or just in general?
Oh, I can provide two examples for that. So there's a current and there's a previous situation. So like I mentioned, in Rexdale, there's the issue of gun violence, which can be with the social context of our upbringing and environment. Not that it makes sense, but it provides color to the experiences of youth in our communities. And it was really sad, because I would say there's a lot of young people we went to school with, and we were praying funerals for more young people in our community than the elderly, and it's just not normal. And it was not okay. So I think being able to bring that perspective to the Youth Council, to the Prime Minister and his cabinet, who I can confidently say did not understand the lived experiences of youth on the ground, and actually hosting a discussion with youth in the community in Rexdale that allowed them to share their recommendations for the government was really powerful, because there's no point of being in these spaces if you can't connect back to young people who are deeply impacted by the policymaking process but are not there. And it's more than one person. And I think as a leader, it's not about the position you're in, the title that you hold, but it's your ability to affect change for the communities that you come from, and do that together. And the other example of something that I'm most proud of is recently, for the past year, we've been advocating for a Somali community center in Toronto. And I feel deeply passionate about the experiences of the Somali Canadian community because it's a community I'm part of, but we're a very young and emerging community that has faced a lot of discrimination in settlement that has impacted our ability to really live our full lives. And this includes like ID challenges that refugees faced when they came to Canada in the 90s. And this particularly impacted the Somali and Afghan communities where they were required to provide IDs in order to apply for social assistance, their permanent residence cards, education, and all of these things. And we had an entire subsection of our population unable to become permanent residents or move their life forward in terms of education and employment for 6 to 7 years until a group of 6 Somali refugees launched a charter challenge in 1996, and this was overturned. So seeing the impacts that it's had over generations, and seeing now that the Toronto City Council passed a motion to support us in creating a Somali community center, and there's a steering committee of like a bunch of young Somali Torontonians under the age of 35 who are making this come to life, is something that I'm really proud of contributing to. And yeah, I think I'm still riding that high. I think it's a very recent announcement.
Yeah, no, that's so amazing. And I think it's just such amazing work that you continue to do. Another question we have here is, how have you made sure that as a youth, your voice is being heard in spaces where they're not often appreciated?
It's a really good question. I will be quite frank with you that I've had the privilege of navigating very formal spaces as an advocate, and I think activists sacrifice a lot more and in navigating informal spaces and putting their lives and livelihoods at risk for the work that they do. So I do want to acknowledge that privilege. But as a Black, visibly Muslim woman, a lot of the spaces that I've entered haven't been welcomed. When we talk about political spaces, whether that be at the federal level or the provincial level, which I've had the experience of being in for the past year, nobody takes you seriously. They see the scarf on your head and they make assumptions about how you think. And I think for me, and this isn't the best advice, but it's what a lot of young racialized women with similar lived experiences have done, is like, I've leaned into my education. Nobody can take that from me. My degrees, I work hard, I was valedictorian, and this is not to flex, but oftentimes a lot of people will not take young Black women seriously in advocacy streams unless we have the educational credentials to back us. And I always try to work from a place evidence-based, and my research has helped that. My research has guided a lot of the policies that I advocate for, and I can often fall back and point to a study I've conducted or other studies that other young people have conducted in my communities to push for change. It's not easy, but all of the work that I've done has been done in conjunction with others, whether that be other youth organization, other youth that I love and respect, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything on my own. And so working together, there's definitely strength in numbers, and that's supported me as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then we have a final question here. So you're heading to Beijing for the Schwarzman Scholars Program. What are you most excited for about that program? And how did you find out about that program? Someone's asking.
That's a very good question. So when I started my MSc at McMaster, I got a mentor. His name is Dr. Peter Singer. He is a physician and he taught at U of T Medicine for quite some years. And he's recently in the pandemic taken on the position of special advisor to the WHO director, Dr. Tedros. So he's been working on the pandemic response at a global level. And he decided to take me under his wing, and he's been giving me a lot of career advice, which I'm so thankful for. And it's something that I recommend as young people, is like, don't be afraid to reach out to someone who's maybe even 20 years out and where you might see yourself in your career and ask for advice. People are really open to helping us, and you should take advantage of it, especially when you're a student. But essentially, he told me that if I wanted to understand global health, it was really important to consider China's role in global health and the key role that they play in providing supports around the world. So he told me about the program. I applied and I was really lucky to get in. I think I'm going to be happy when I get there because the visa process has been a nightmare. But what I'm most excited for is learning about Chinese culture and just experiencing a world outside of our own. I think I've been born, raised, socialized, educated in North America, and I haven't had the experience to explore Asia or receive like a perspective from that side of the world. So I think that's what I'm most excited for.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Haban. That reaches the end of all the questions that we have had. But where can people find you? Where can people kind of reach out to you? All that good stuff.
I'm on LinkedIn as my name, and I'm on Instagram as well, where I post frequently. So I think those are the two best channels to reach me. And I'll drop my email in the chat if anybody has questions or if I can support anyone's educational journey or path. Or if I would love to. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Haban. Everyone give a virtual round of applause. And thank you so much for joining us this morning.